And this afternoon, Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, is raising fears that there may be civil unrest in the West Africa sub-region, including relatively stable democracies such as Ghana, if immediate steps are not taken to protect the country's governance architecture. In the next 24 hours, heads of state and government representatives will converge at the ECOWAS headquarters in Abuja over the political situation in Niger, where the presidential guard seized power in a military coup d'etat. An attempted negotiation made yesterday by ECOWAS to dialogue with the military regime failed yesterday owing to what is being described now as the unavailability of military leaders to actually meet the peace talks that was planned for yesterday. But the statement and the situation in Niger, the fallouts from the failure of the negotiation, is further complicating the delicate political situation in the West Africa sub-region, which has at least 5 successive coup d'etats in the last 3 years. Ahead of that summit tomorrow, there's a need for us to hear from some of the key stakeholders going into that meeting, and also some of the political watchers analysing the situation. We'll be hearing from the Speaker of the House shortly, Alban Bagbin, who's been addressing a lecture last night pointing to the situation happening in the West Africa sub-region. But let me bring in my guest first. Emmanuel Kwesi-Bajira is a member of the ECOWAS Parliament. He's also MP for Ho West. Adama Gaye is a Senegalese author and a political analyst joining us from Düsseldorf in Germany. Mukhtar Momoni Mukhtar is the Executive Director for the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism, joining us from Senegal, which is another country that we need to be on the lookout for because of the number of issues happening there. Gentlemen, thank you for spending some time with us. Let's start off with this expected meeting that we're set to have amongst the heads of state from the ECOWAS region. Yesterday, the planned negotiation jointly done by the UN, the AU and ECOWAS failed to happen because of what is being described as the unavailability of the military regime to meet the ECOWAS. And the military regime is also responding to say it's because the sanctions are still prevalent. So let me start off with you, Adama Gaye. The point about the failure of this negotiation. What will be the impact on the attempt by ECOWAS to find peace?
It will be a very serious blow to any effort at ECOWAS to negotiate a peaceful outcome of this crisis. ECOWAS started off on July 30th at its previous head of state summit by flexing its muscle and saying that it is ready to go to war in order to restore democracy. The weaponization of African politics in ECOWAS was the wrong way to start with. And in the situation that Niger finds itself, the junta, they realized that they got the support of the African population, they got the support of neighboring countries like Mali and Burkina Faso, they get the support of Algeria. They know that the whole world knows that it was this kind of intervention that created the mess in Libya. They know that behind the effort at militarism in Niger, one can see the lack of legitimacy that the president of Nigeria, who is currently the chairman of the ECOWAS organization, because he was not properly elected democratically, his election is being challenged in court. And also, many of these civilian leaders were calling for military intervention. They are not really clean when it comes to democracy in their backyard, in their home countries. So, truly, the ECOWAS is in a tight corner. They don't have the credibility to intervene, and the countries and organizations they are trying to bring on board to support their muscling of their foreign intervention, they are also problematic, because everybody knows that there is a country behind all this, that is France. And as a former director of communication of ECOWAS, I know from the beginning that it was not always easy when ECOWAS decided to intervene. When it intervened for the first time in Liberia in 1990, it took it 13 years before the war ended there, before democracy was restored. So definitely, by allying behind France and allowing somehow foreign forces to use the United Nations, African Union, ECOWAS, especially France, this is a serious blow to the credibility not just of ECOWAS, but of the African proposition under the African Union. So the mediation is a problem now.
Right. I was just about pointing out that you have extensive experience working with the sub-regional body ECOWAS, and I recall that at the time you worked closely with the likes of Jerry John Rawlings when, of course, there was a lot of instability in the region, starting off with Sierra Leone and then the Liberian situation. There was indeed a deployment of ECOMOG 1 and 2, if you want to term them as such. But looking at the situation in which we find ourselves now, would you say that it is justified for the forces to go into Niger now?
Look, let's be realistic. ECOWAS doesn't have the mandate to intervene militarily. In order to intervene, it ought to get the support, the clearance of the United Nations. That is the rule. Secondly, somehow it needs to get the support of the African Union. So to wake up overnight and say we are going to intervene without even having the hardware, without having the intelligence, unable in their own countries to fight security challenges like terrorist and jihadist organizations. And overnight you say you attack Niger, which is a country of 1,200,000 kilometers square, which is used to military coup. When I was a young student in journalism, my first country I visited in Africa was Niger. It was in 1978. Then the country was ruled by the first coup maker in that country, which was Senekunche, who took power in 1974 August in that country. Ever since there has been coup and challenges to democracy in that country.
I see.
ECOWAS should be more subtle, more agile in intervening in these places, coming up with different software instead of using the same hardware approach to foreign policy, saying that they can intervene militarily to oust whoever. And you want to restore Mr. Bazoum? Bazoum was a coup maker, civilian, in this regard, because he didn't win the election. It was Mohamed Usman, actually.
Okay, these are, and Adama Gaya, we need to accept that these are claims you're making on your own accord, because the official documentation reflects that indeed Mohamed Bazoum won the election. We're dealing with the official records we have now.
But the official record is something that is not always the reality in Africa. Because what we are facing now, we have to be candid about the reality of democracy in Africa. Civilians, when they come, they try to entrench themselves and they practice what is called one man, one vote, once. Once you vote them in power, you don't get a chance again to even eliminate them democratically. So it was an election organized by Mr. Yusufu, who had designated Mr. Bazoum as successor, who made as Prime Minister Mr. Mahamadou Oumoudou, with my former colleague at ECOWAS. But they did not win the election. And this is the reality. And at the end of the day, if you do so, you are, at the end of the day, losing out. And this is what happened. Mr. Bazoum has a problem of legitimacy. And this is what ECOWAS should take into account in addressing the problem.
Here's what I want us to do. I want us to look at the ECOWAS statement, and then I'll bring in Mukhtar Momoni Mukhtar. We also have the Honorable Kwesi Betra, who's a member of the ECOWAS Parliament, joining the conversation. But just before I bring you in, Mukhtar, the point about the statement that ECOWAS released yesterday, we can just take a look at that, pointing out and admitting clearly that it did not have a meeting. So excerpts indicate that the mission was aborted following a late night, quote, a late night communication from the military authorities in Niger indicating their unavailability. That's what ECOWAS is telling us, to receive the tripartite delegation made up of the UN, AU and ECOWAS, as we understand, on that mission. The planned mission was part of the continued efforts to find a peaceful resolution to the current crisis in Niger. And as per the decision of the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit on the 30th of July 2023, the community will continue to deploy all measures in order to restore constitutional order in Niger. This is a worrying part of the statement because at the end of that summit on the 30th of July, it was the same point at which we had the military option being on the table. We've seen the military chiefs themselves to that meeting. Mukhtar Momoni Mukhtar, I'm just wondering if ECOWAS is giving us a signal that they may go in now.
Well, it's a worrying situation for everyone who is following the developments. It appears that ECOWAS is still on the same spot at the same point where they were on the 30th of July when this summit happened. Of course, we are being told that the military leaders are not willing and are not ready to host them or allow them into their airspace. And in fact, this morning, we picked up signals. Our intelligence on the ground shows that there was a flight from, Abuja towards Niger. And in fact, it did go into Niger. It did go to, Niamey. And I think that the suspicion we had was that they did not have permission to land. And so there was some kind of movements around, the airspace within Niger, and they had to go back. I am not sure the details of that delegation or who these individuals were or the purpose for which they were in Niger. But what is worrying is that it appears, in spite of all the commentary and all the opinions from all, stakeholders within the region, ECOWAS is not, revising their approach to dealing with the situation. And that is very, very worrying. I think all actors, all stakeholders who have expressed their, opinions and expertise in terms of what the potential implications are, have been very, very direct in terms of what it means for all of us regionally. And yet we do not seem to see any significant shift or any move from what ECOWAS, stood on the 30th of July. And so it is important that we need to increase a layer of engagement to ensure that ECOWAS's response is reflective of what the general response is, the general position of the of the entire West Africa is. Other than that, we may have an individual or a few group of people who would bring this upon us, exert their influence and then lead to a situation of insecurity and instability within the entire West African space. And I heard the previous senior citizen make the comment in terms of this implication on security. We are already dealing with a very difficult situation of violent extremism in West Africa. In fact, the statistics we have right now, in the last 6 months, we are recording over 4,600 fatalities just within 6 months, over 1,800 attacks. We are moving towards the record of 2014, 2015, when this region was the deadliest region for terrorism. In the last 15 years, everything shows that we have been incapable of containing the terrorist violence in the region. Coupled with the current economic situation, the economic instability, a Niger situation will further destabilize all of us. And we should be, speaking loudly and acting more, strongly to ensure that we do not have an intervention situation for all of us.
In fact, that's the fear we all have. You are in Senegal. Senegal has a peculiar challenge, and we'll feed that into the conversation because Adama Gaye is also from Senegal. We also have Emmanuel Akufo-Addo, who's a member of the ECOWAS Parliament, joining us. Just before I bring him in, I want us to listen to the Speaker of Parliament, Ghana Speaker of Parliament, Alban Kingsford-Bagbin, who's also been wading into this decline in democracy across West Africa. He's worried that relatively stable democracies such as Ghana may witness an uprising. Just listen.
That the space of development cannot match up to population growth, with a resultant high rate of unemployment and its attendant security risk and instability, which we are witnessing. There are so many others I could add. But let me tell you that because of this, reversal of democratic gains in Burkina Faso. I used to visit the president of Burkina Faso and the parliament and speakers. I used to go there. And I was able to link a number of businessmen from Ghana to their partners in Burkina when I was deputy speaker. Look at what is happening there. Almost about 70% is being controlled by terrorists. So they run the schools, they run the health sector, they do everything there. No government is there. Mali, Guinea, and Niger, these are not palatable narrative for the profile of our sub-region. It's as a result of this that the trust and confidence that voters had in democracy have been trumped. And that is why some of the earlier speakers said some people are preferring military rule. to the democracy we are practicing. But even the military men and women, well, in military you don't have women, you have only men, they themselves don't want to intervene because the cost to the military is immeasurable. They kill each other more than they kill the civilians because of the distrust, the injection of disunity among the personnel of the security agencies. So even after they return to constitutional rule, they keep on killing each other. It takes time to settle down. So they know the cost now. They are not interested. What we should be afraid of is civil disobedience and civil revolution, as happened in Egypt. That we should be afraid of, and we should all guard against. And let me give you a bit of research into this. In recent years, surveys, researches, and experiences shared by both politicians and observers of the political space show a worrying emerging trend. What is coming to the fore the world over is that the public generally holds those they elect into office, as well as democratic institutions, in very low esteem. Very, very low esteem.
So the Speaker of Ghana's Parliament there, Alban Kingsford Bagbin. It's the reason for which I also want to hear from the Honourable Emmanuel Kwesi-Bedzua, who's a member of the ECOWAS Parliament. And I recall meeting you, Honourable, in Abuja. That was earlier this year. And as part of the deliberations, you, the members of Parliament from the ECOWAS Parliament, were concerned about instability in the entire region. Next election happening at the time was the parliamentary elections in the Gambia. You were there as well. Now you're back, and all of a sudden the region is still experiencing this situation of unrest. First of all, what's your take on the decision by the heads of state to going with the military? And are you of the opinion that that will be the safest option as they meet tomorrow?
Well, thank you very much, Bless, and thank you so much. Thank my co-panelists, Mutari as well as Adama. Yes, indeed, I am worried, and I'm not too happy that the head of state have decided to go the way they are going now. We just returned from our delocalized meeting in Liberia, and that was about 2 weeks ago. And one of the things that we look at is political inclusivity in democratic governance. And we have some of the CDS and some political actors who are military officers coming to talk to us at our committee level in Liberia. One of the key things that we learned has to do with exactly what has happened. In fact, we were there when the coup happened in Niger, and the chief of staff, defense staff of Liberia, just said, well, we're just discussing this. It is a coup. And we have a colleague of ours from Niger.
Really?
Who was part. So currently, my colleague, Abdullahi, is still in Liberia, being hosted by the Liberian government. Now, when we had the announcement of the coup d'etat, our first inclination was that, well, this thing has happened again, and what is the next move? And then we heard that the chairman and head of state of ECOWAS has sent a delegation, that was the Benin president, to go and negotiate with the military junta in Niger. We heard that it wasn't successful, he has to return, and then there was a summon of all the heads of state in Abuja, and they went and they decided that, well, the next leg of action was to have a military intervention in Niger. But at our meeting, at the ECOWAS delocalized meeting, we thought the first move, which was a democratic and diplomacy, would have been the best. You know, talking to the military junta, finding solution to the problem, would have been the best than the second option, which is the military intervention. Just as Adama has mentioned, you need the collaboration of African Union as well as the United Nations to be able to move into a sovereign state where they have, removed a democratically elected government. You cannot unilaterally, as a regional body, move in there. Having said that, one of the things that I have learned during our delocalized meeting has to do with non-inclusivity of some of our military personnel. And I'll give a typical example. When the CDS was speaking, he mentioned that, well, it is not the military per se that are, making a coup in these countries. It is rather the presidential guards. The presidential guards who are protecting the president. And normally in these countries, you have presidential guards who are different from the normal military structure.
Right.
And so the presidential guard sees us political leaders, and he just mentioned in person that if I'm a presidential guard who comes from my tribe and knows everything about me and knows where I'm coming from, he knows my poverty level or my everything about me, and all of a sudden my maid servant decide to steal about $1 million from my wardrobe, what would that military personnel who is a presidential guard do? Because he knows very well, he knows everything about me, because this is our president, they decide to pick people who are loyal to them, especially from their tribes.
Right.
And he mentioned that, and it took me aback. And I said, well, it is because we are not including the military hierarchy in decision making when it comes to political decision. Who's supposed to be your presidential guard? Is it your brother? Is it your family member? Or you just pick people from the military setup and form your presidential guard? Check out from Burkina Faso to Guinea Conakry to Mali and Niger, they are all presidential guards. And so we are beginning to fear that this movement, 4 of our neighbors, 4 of our brothers who are no longer members of ECOWAS because of the sanction, will affect us economically, militarily, and every sphere of our life in the region.
Okay.
So, it is not today. It is in Niger, and from the analysis that giving us, we have 2 more to go before the end of this year.
2 more coup d'etats to be witnessed.
2 coup d'etats to go, and that should be a worrying trend to all of us. In fact, from all the speakers who came to us, we have 2 more military personnel, 2 more coup d'etats region to go before the end of the year. And so this should be a worrying trend to all of us, whether we agree or not. We had it last year, Abuja, and it has happened. And now they have predicted that there will be 2 more.
Okay.
And so what are we going to be doing? What are we doing as a sub-region?
That's a great question you are asking, because tomorrow these same leaders will be meeting. There are other considerations that must be on the table, and some experts are advocating for, and not just a fixation on Niger. You were just pointing out that 2 more coup d'etats likely in the West Africa sub-region. And Adamagai, let's hear from you on the meeting that's about to happen tomorrow. Should we go just beyond Niger? Because you're from Senegal, and I'm glad that Mukhtar Momoni is joining us from Senegal. That's also another burning area.
Absolutely. We need to have a broad-based conversation about the situation in West Africa, in Africa indeed. Let me tell you what happened in 1999, in June 1999, under the then OAU, the Organization of African Unity, which was replaced later by the African Union. There was a summit in Algiers. I was there. And in that Algiers summit of June 1999, the decision was made to end the military coup in Africa on a principle, a contract. Under that contract, African countries would be led by civilians, but the military will return to their barracks. But they will be in charge of security, border control, and some civil engineering and military engineering to support the development of their countries. On the other hand, those who are in power, the civilians, would be practicing good governance, rule of law, respect of democratic norms. That is the contract that was worthy for Africa, but it was not respected by the civilians. Those who came to power in a democratic manner, quote unquote, with civilian clothes, They behave like autocrats. What are the military autocrats? So this is the problem that we face, and that should be discussed. If they didn't go back to the drawing board and address the problems that Africa is facing in depth in its democracy, rule of law, and behavior in a democratic manner by those who are elected, then you will continue to have military coup.
We're also seeing, just to bring that as you dovetail into the meeting tomorrow, the involvement of superpowers. It's been alleged, in fact, just yesterday, the U.S. Secretary of State Blinken pointing out that the Wagner Group is taking advantage of the situation. Some are also accusing the French government. Accusations all over the place, but it's pointing out to some geopolitics that's also coming into this.
Yes, absolutely. We are now living almost the end of the Cold War. At one point, the Soviet Union withdrew, and there were only the West in all over the world controlling it. Remember, Francis Fukuyama saying that the end of history, the Western democracy had won. Now, Russia, BRIC countries, China, Turkey, Brazil, they are trying to play a role, and they know that Africa is a continent full of riches, and now there is a new scramble over Africa on geopolitical terms. But some of these people coming in, the Russians and others, they are trying to prop civilian autocrats, whereas the Western nations, they are trying to reawaken the colonial past that they have had in that region. So we are facing now ourselves to be in the middle. The reality is Africa should drive its agenda, its narrative, and decide on it in an open conversation. The problem is, even a country like mine, Senegal, that used to be the beacon of democracy, is no longer. By the way, I'm speaking to you from Düsseldorf, from Germany. Why? Because in Senegal, I've been writing on African issues, including on the mismanagement of the country. Overnight, they decided to arrest me, throw me in jail for 53 days without reason.
So you were in jail. You were in jail for 53 days because
yes,
you were critical. You were critical about your own government.
Absolutely, and this is the problem. If democracy is debate, is contradictory debate. We used to have it in Africa. I remember people coming to Ghana, President Rawlings, President Kufuor, the actual president Nana Akufo-Addo, President Mills. I know them well. I'm a Ghanaian, by the way. I love the country. And when Ghana was back in 1996, we did a special report in Jeune Afrique, the leading French newspaper, entitled Ghana is Back. It was democracy, and we saw it also in other parts of Africa, including in Senegal. But what we are facing now is some kind of people who take advantage of them being elected and just deciding on everything, on the resources of the country, on the freedoms of the people, on the opinion of people. And when you say no, you are thrown into jail. This is the problem that West African leaders, when they meet tomorrow, they need to come to grips with the reality. And Western nations coming to talk to us, they should be clear about the reality of Africa instead of coming with a blueprint that is the same thing always, or you have to restore constitutional order.
Right.
No, if you don't respect the rule of law, you are toppled. And this is obvious.
Okay, let's bring in Mukhtar Momoni. Mukhtar, we just heard from Honorable Emmanuel Beja pointing out that the indication they are getting, and probably that's from the ECOWAS early warning mechanism, that there may be 2 more coup d'etats before the end of the year. In your network as well, at the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism, what data are you picking up on this as well?
Well, of course, it's difficult to dismiss that, that point that there could be more coups. There could be 2 or more coups in the region before end of year. In fact, 2 years ago, when we saw the first coup situations happen, it was easy for us to predict that we would have more coups even before the end of the second year. And here we are. We have had 6 coup situations. 6 coups and attempted coup situations have happened within that space. If you look at all the 4 countries that have had this, all of them rank very low in the Human Development Index. It points to the fact that these things are a product or a manifestation of the incapacity of our states and leadership to provide, what I call the entitlements of leadership. And this relates to issues of job creation, economic opportunities for people, as well as social amenities, and issues of good governance. These things significantly are very, very fragile in many more other countries than those that we are currently looking at in terms of the coup situations. And so the reality is that we have very vulnerable countries, more vulnerable countries that could, fall to, to coup situations in the sub-region. And we have to take very, very practical measures, measures that are practical, measures that are consistent, the measures that are effective to ensure that we build a culture of resilience against coup situations from happening. It is almost too late now to talk about these things in terms of putting in place measures to prevent coups. We may have more coups before we build a sense of resilience and the foundation of resilience against coups within the sub-region.
Okay, let me give the final word to you, Honorable Emmanuel Kwesi-Bajara. The point about the Speaker raising concerns that even in Ghana we are democratically stable, except to say that there may be an uprising if we do not take steps to guard our democracy. Your final words on that as we wrap up.
Yes, I perfectly agree with the Speaker that the happenings in the country could may cause some uprising with citizens in the country. Yes, you know that people are complaining, people are talking. It might not be a military coup in Ghana, but it could be civilian uprising. It could be civilian situation that could cause, all that we have done, all that we have gained as a country. And so we need to dialogue. We need to talk. We need to speak to each other. I believe that there should be an inclusivity. We should include others in our dialogue. Bless the youth in the country, for instance, in this country, not only in Ghana, just as Mutare has mentioned, the democratic dividend that we have chalked, it's not helping anybody. People are hungry. When it comes to job for our youth, are not there. The economy is in a bad shape, not only in Ghana, but in the whole of West African sub-region. And then when it comes to even the election is another thing altogether. We finish election and you have to go to court. You have to go to the judiciary for the judiciary, to judge or to lead, to come out with their verdict. But those judiciary, as we go through the various countries, we realize that even the judiciary are being the appointees of the president who is in power, who you are going now to judge. And so we also whether this democracy that is good for us or is not good for us. We need to rethink because of, just as my brother has mentioned, we are at the end of Cold War. But unfortunately, we are starting all over again. And if we are not careful, all that we have gained as a continent will go back, into shadows. I'm
grateful, gentlemen. Emmanuel Kwesi-Bajara, member of the ECOWAS Parliament and also MP for Whole West here in Ghana. Also to my good friend Adama Gaye joining us from Düsseldorf in Germany, and also to Mutare Mumuni Mukhtar joining us from Senegal. I'm grateful, gentlemen. Well, the situation in Niger is also impacting Ghana, especially when it comes to the Ghanaian business community. The closure of Niger's land and air borders have created difficulties in cutting produce to Ghana, which is also having some ripple effects, including the escalating prices in Ghana's market, which we'll discuss a bit later. But let's talk about health this afternoon as well. Because as we speak, more and more Ghanaians are taking alcohol. The worry is that many more young people in their productive years are leaving us with no option than to classify them as alcoholics, or for us to say we have an alcohol epidemic. The nation is indeed drunk, as the data is pointing to us. So we can just get you the graphics of what it is that the consumption rate is when it comes to alcohol drinks in Ghana, which is set to reach nearly 50,000 tons by 2026. That's a significant hike in the level of consumption here in the country. In 2021, for instance, the figure stood at 38,000 tons, representing a year-on-year increase of 4.3% since 2017, and demand has risen by some 5.9%. Ghana was the 39th biggest consumer of alcoholic drinks in 2021, with Indonesia overtaking them to reach 38,000 tons. We have India, Japan, and Russia, which was second, third and the fourth biggest consumers, respectively. We know that that figure is beginning to paint that picture that you see on the screens now, with 23.5% of Ghanaians taking in alcohol out of the 7.2 million sampled, representing 7.2 million, I should say. And then you have the trend also moving in from 2019 all the way to 2020. 3 where we are now, and the projection is that it will keep escalating to some 304.1 as we're seeing on the screens there. So it doesn't look like in the next 5 years it may come down. On average, each person consumes some 12.75 liters of alcohol annually, and it's beginning to become a concern for many. In Ghana today, as we speak, it is so easy to find huge trucks filled with alcohol being transported across the country, mainly for consumption. Well, yesterday, authorities met to discuss a tightening of the national alcohol policy to help reduce and promote the abstinence and also to reduce harmful alcohol consumption. So shortly, I will be discussing the plans to adhere to this, as it has a significant impact on our social order and productivity at work when it comes to healthcare and overall safety and security of the country, bottom line, the economy. Before we do that, though, let's take you to the Blue Kiosk.
Ghana has currently launched an alcohol regulation which aims at controlling the sale, production and consumption of alcohol. According to statistics over the years, the intake of alcohol has increased in Ghana. Today, I'm with members of the Ghana Drunkards Association, which has an AKA. I'm here with the president. Moses, what is the other name?
Beverage Consumers and Bar Owners of Ghana Association.
Moses, why do you drink in the first place?
Yeah, drinking is part of the human life. So without drinking, you cannot survive on this earth. So definitely as humans or as even animals on earth, definitely you have to drink to survive. That is why there's a saying that the body contains 70% of drinking and 30% of food. So which means that.
But did they emphasize on whether alcohol or whether not alcohol?
So alcohol has been part. That is why even in the Akan language it is called ensa, which means it does not finish. Okay. We came to meet it, and we will go and live it for generations to come. So you cannot eliminate drinking in the society. Then even in the medical language, they say it gives something like euphoria, you know, especially when it comes to the alcohol side.
So let me come to you. Why I can see you're enjoying your drink.
Yeah.
Why do you take in alcohol?
Like my president just explained, alcohol is part of everyday activities on our land as Africans, our culture, because we use alcohol even in everything that we do, like marriage, funeral, naming, name it.
So I think that's the reason why I take in alcohol, to keep my body fit, but not to abuse it.
As you can hear what our president said, it helps in our human system. We need a percentage of alcohol inside our human system, and also it helps you in terms of depression. You understand? Yeah. So that is.
So anytime you are depressed, you just try to take in alcohol a little. All right, Moses. Now you know there's a new regulation when it comes to alcohol intake. The government is now trying to move the time of alcohol advertisements from 8 to 10 p.m. What do you think about that?
You see, initially, I was thinking that FDA and other institutions that regulate the licensing, the consumption, and the advertisement of alcohol would have organized a stakeholder meeting before even releasing such statements to the masses. Because apart from voting, have you ever heard NCC moving around with vans? And children under 18 don't drink. The only moment you hear NCC speaking is, my vote is your power, come out and vote. The sales, the advertisement, and the licensing has a process that they go through. Now, here lies the case. We sit on our television, even here at headquarters, watching our TV. Then we hear that, now, you pick a bottle here, you read botanical names on it, Kaya Senegalensis, Carica papaya. How many of the drunkards here are educated to read Kaya Senegalensis, which is mahogany?
So you think that there should be more education when it comes to alcohol consumption?
Not even education, there should be more of stakeholder meetings.
Okay.
Where
they should involve you.
Involve the consumers, the
Drunkards Association.
Let me put it that way.
But now, you know, does that the movement of the time, does that have any effect on alcohol consumption? Let me come to you. Would they have any effect on your alcohol consumption?
Well, from my side of view, when you don't do proper advertisement for the alcohol in the system, that means there are a lot of bad alcohol out there.
But do you need advertisements before you drink?
It's part of the education, like my president is saying.
So with what you are taking right now, did you see an advert somewhere before you took the drink? The advertisements when it comes to alcohol?
I can say yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because maybe I've been drinking, I won't mention names, but I've been drinking one particular of alcohol for some time. And then I see on television a new brand, and they add a lot of things to entice you. This one helps in your waist pains, this one helps in your headache. So maybe I might be drawn to that, to go and try to see if my waist pains will go or my headache will go. How is FDA explaining to us what we are drinking?
Yeah, it will affect, because there are some alcohol in the market right now that when you take them, you like, there are some when you take, you feel headache. Some too, you can even get stomach pain through it, because some of the alcohol in the market right now are not appropriate for consumption, because
even though it's FDA approved.
Yeah, some they are FDA approved, but I can say it's not all, like the way the president was saying, it is not all that FDA have checked it and approved it.
More education should be done, so that you know how to take in or the amount of alcohol you should take in. You don't just get up and be drinking anyhow.
I heard the GRA boss saying they are implementing a health tax on alcohol. Now, with the health tax, I'm asking the GRA boss, what percentage of that health tax from alcohol are they using to build cardio centers, so that in case somebody have a kidney problem, they can run dialysis for the person for free? Drinking alcohol is part of giving tithe, paying tithe. Now, if we stop drinking, imagine the unemployment rate that is going to create in this country.
My last question, would you want to quit with all these regulation which is going on, taxes that you're going to pay? Would it affect your drinking? Like, are you willing to quit? As in, today I'm up and I'm no longer taking in alcohol anymore. Would you want to do that?
What will make me not to drink or to go and drink is not the adverts that I see on TV. Oh, okay. Yes.
And it's not even the taxes. Okay.
But we are creating awareness. If I say we, I mean me and my president and the association.
No, I'll not quit taking in alcohol, because I know that what benefit I get from the alcohol. And even talking about the drinking, and even when you checked in our society, in our tradition, we have important use of alcohol. Even in the Bible is there. Why is that when Jesus Christ was performing his miracle, they said he turned water into what? Wine, but not into food or any other thing. When you check Psalm 80, 7 verse 1 or what, they said God himself take in alcohol. And his whole...
It's in the Bible.
Yeah, it's in the Bible.
Which verse again?
Psalm 87 1. Psalm 87 verse 1. That he's holding a cup which is full with wine, which the color is pink. So that means in the Bible itself there's alcohol inside.
For me to quit alcohol, I don't think I will quit alcohol, because I alone know what alcohol does in my system.
Okay.
But personally, I won't quit.
Just as you heard from the members of the Drunkards Association, they are not quitting anytime soon. Even with the regulations that are being imposed by the authorities, they are not quitting. For Joy News, Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah.
Well, the Mental Health Authority made a presentation at the forum held in Accra yesterday on dealing with the problem. Dr. Selassie Adom is with the Pontine Mental Hospital. We'll get to that for you shortly, but I want to bring in our guests who are helping us to do the discussion even before we hear excerpts of that roundtable. Dr. Olivia Ejekumwa Boateng is the head of tobacco and substance abuse, joining us from the Directorate of Food and Drugs Authority. We also have Pearl also Setekla, who's spokesperson for the National Road Safety Authority, and Dr. Thomas Anaba, who is the CEO and Medical Director of that's the Habana Medical Services in Tamale, currently gunning to be a Member of Parliament on the ticket of the National Democratic Congress and to help trend laws as he believes in. Also joining us is Baba Sadiq, who's the CEO for the 3 Music Network, who raises concern about the existing policy during the Joy FM Showbiz Roundtable discussion, and one of it actually happened just last week. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Let's start off from the perspective of the FDA, because there's a need for us to know, first of all, about the rising figures that we're seeing. Dr. Selassie, is there any, and just before we get to Dr. Selassie, from the perspective of the FDA, is there something really that can be done to check these increasing numbers in terms of policy? It appears we're having some challenges there reaching the FDA, but Dr. Thomas Anapa is with us. Dr. Anapa, the figures we're seeing now are quite staggering. In your view, what's the possible impact when it comes to public health?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers. I think the impact of alcohol is well known, and then we shouldn't belittle it, and then the side effects of it is also well known. For public health perspective concerns, I would say excessive consumption of alcohol is very detrimental to one's life. It is not that one cannot take alcohol, but when you take it so excessively and so frequently, you may create some damage to your own body and also create problems for the society in which you live. For your own self, you can develop simple things like headaches, that after drinking you can get some headaches. You can get dehydrated, you can get nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. If you drink alcohol excessively, you can even get a heart attack. That is for yourself. Long-term effect of alcohol consumption would cause some modification in the way your brain functions. That is where the psychiatrists would come in to try to investigate. That will need a very long-term solution for you to resolve. But for the society, people who drink a lot in society, when they are with their peers or when they are with people, they behave in a way that it is not good. Their behavior changes. They don't feel shy. If they are drivers, they can lead to accidents. If they are with people who feel shy, they can cause them to be unhappy. They can even insult people without knowing they are insulting them. Sometimes they can even pee on themselves and spoil the environment in which you are. So all this is not good for the society. People who drink a lot and become uncontrolled, become dangerous among the people they are living with. So those are some of the effects. And the economic effect of overdrinking is what one of the drunkards, the president, said. It will cause more people to go to hospital to seek for medical solution. That will put a burden on the economy of the country and the finances of the country. So it's not only to they themselves, but to the society and also to the economy at large. So alcohol consumption, excessive alcohol consumption, improper alcohol consumption can cause problems for oneself, the society, and the economy at large.
I see, but just as we've seen from the guests who were speaking to earlier, they call themselves the Drunkard Association on a lighter side, by the way. They seem to be bringing in the cultural aspect that in almost all of our daily lives and all of our activities that we have, some element of appeal, as we call it, will go into the system.
No, yes, alcohol consumption, it has been there ever since time memorial, and it is even seen in the Bible. It is true. You see, a family that drinks, definitely children growing up from that family may tend to drink. They will tend to drink.
Wow.
P.S. If you are moving with friends who like drinking, one day you'll be forced to touch alcohol. I have Muslim friends who drink. I don't drink, but I don't see how they got it. When I ask them, it's because of peer friends. If you also have a mental problem, you can tend to drink thinking that it will solve your problem. Some people recently, look, some juju makers, some traditional power makers will tell you, drink this, drink that, and some of them contain alcohol. People drink it and they hook to it. Some drink it for fun. Like in Japan, drinking is for fun. Even government promotes drinking to bring in money. Like they were saying, if you stop drinking in Ghana, people will go bankrupt, companies will close down. So it's used for social entertainment, and it's also used for economic benefit to the country if it is drunk well. You see, so what he was saying was not wrong. I think our peers and society in which we live sometimes encourage us to drink. You go to any party and there must be alcohol. Even now, even some Muslim parties, you go and they have alcohol at some special item somewhere that people have to go and get to drink. So it's becoming a problem really in Ghana. I remember we had this conversation during fasting time, and alcohol sellers in one region in Ghana, I won't mention the name, were complaining that their market have gone down because almost everybody is fasting. It means that when they are not fasting, they are drinking. So if now Muslims are even joining in drinking, and those who are drinking, their children are drinking, and a lot of young people who are jobless just want to find something to amuse themselves for a while, alcohol is the cheapest thing they can get to drink. And it's very easy to get alcohol in Ghana to drink. That is one of the problems, and we can't stop it.
Okay, you are an expert in this field. You're also Executive Director for the Africa Center for Health Policy Analysis and Research. So you'll be helping us look at the possible policy options that we can consider. And Pearl, I'll come to you about the issue on road safety. But before then, we know that the Mental Health Authority made a presentation at a forum that was held in Accra yesterday dealing with the problem. We can listen to Dr. Selassie Adom, who is with the Pantime Mental Hospital.
We see the devastating effects of alcohol use in our practice. So every day I go to work, I'm likely to see somebody in the most productive age group, so in their 30s to 50s, who is dealing with the health and social and other implications of alcohol use. This is on a daily basis. And this patient is likely to have lost their income, so maybe they've been in multiple jobs, they've suffered dismissals and other things because of the use of alcohol. They may have lost family ties, and they may be dealing with other health issues as well, such as hypertension and diabetes. A lot of these people start using alcohol in their early years, so most likely in the adolescent years. And this becomes worse when they are in the working age groups because there are more resources available for them to purchase alcohol. They are also likely to be using other drugs. So that's what we see. Most of the time, people don't use just alcohol. So once they start using alcohol, they'll be using other drugs like cannabis, which is the commonest that is available in our environment. So a lot of the strategies that we think can work should be targeted at the youth. And prevention is the key, like I've said already.
Also speaking at the same event, we had Labram Musa, Executive Director for the NGO Vision for Alternative Development, speaking.
All the diseases that we know of, it's impacted by the use of alcohol. And by use of alcohol, normally we are talking about the one that we consume as, people use for recreational purposes, and not the one that we use for, for pharmaceutical, and medicine. Right, and then high cost of treatment beyond the reach of individuals, because I don't think any person would be able to go through the continuum of care when the person is afflicted with issues of alcohol problems. In fact, it's a problem of everyone once the persons, get that. And then it's also very important to note that the National Health Insurance Scheme does not cover many of these diseases. The chronic diseases such as breast, hypertension, heart diseases, most of them are not within the reach of the National Health Insurance. So you would find this product very cheap in the market. People assess them. In fact, I used to say that if you have 50 pesos, you can buy a sachet of cigarettes, of alcohol to drink. Very, very cheap in the market. And eventually, when people fall sick and they go to the hospital, what happens? National Health Insurance is not able to. So the point is this. She mentioned that one of the most effective measures to regulate alcohol or health-harming product is by increasing taxes on these commodities. But the industry will not allow that to happen. Alcohol is causing many problems, yet little priority is given to it at all levels, be it global, national, everywhere. Little attention is given to alcohol. So there is, low acceptability, high acceptability because it's part of our culture, as part of our social life, and we accept it as normal. But meanwhile, alcohol is not normal. And then also availability, is available everywhere. Anywhere you pass, you find, alcoholic, a joint, everywhere you find in Ghana and then in many parts of developing countries, the blue stores are everywhere. Every small corner, you would find a blue kiosk. And this is what they say, alcoholic beverages. So indeed, there's a need for us to regulate very well.
But the danger we don't see here is about the possibility of the national security implications that we have, even when it comes to the safety on our roads. Pearl, that's why I want to hear from you. At the National Road Safety Authority, there's obviously concern about this increase or the rise in the numbers as we see.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers. Rightly, as you said, as all other speakers have said already, alcohol intake affects society and importantly affects road safety as well. And so we are very much concerned. Already, as part of our sensitization, we will be sensitizing our drivers, both commercial and private, to abstain from drink driving. And so we'll be highlighting this sensitization program for a very long time, and we've partnered with NGOs to carry out this sensitization because we cannot enforce the non-sale of alcohol in stations and terminals. It is for the police to do. We have to sensitize the drivers. And also in the Road Traffic Act, it is a criminal offense to be caught drinking or caught driving and drinking. So that we hand you over to the police. And so we are very worried with this information that is out. But we are doing our possible best to let drivers understand the effect of drink driving. It is the third major cause of crashes in the country. And so this information, we'll take it up and liaise with our NGO partners and then heighten or strengthen our sensitization. That's what we are currently doing. So tomorrow, we'll be having a meeting and strategize how to strengthen our sensitization on that. But we see that alcohol intake in commercial drivers has reduced per the private drivers because we don't have data on the private drivers. They do whatever they like. And so in effect, the statistics shows that their contribution to crashes in the country has risen above the commercial drivers. We will say that the commercial drivers adhering to the directives that we've given so far, and they are abiding by the sensitizations that we've been doing for them. But we have a problem with the private drivers. Some of the youth take their father's vehicles, their parents' vehicles. They are not being monitored very well. And so that is where the problem lies now. And so we are formulating strategies whereby we could partner with other stakeholders and get to our private drivers, especially the youth, so that the way the commercial drivers are now adhering to our educational programs, they will do same, so that we will not find our youth driving and drinking and causing issues all over, especially during the weekends when they go out partying and other things.
Which means that definitely the aspect of policy is critical at this point in checking that.
Very critical. Very, very critical. There should be policy that will direct vehicle users how to behave on the road, and then stringent measures put in place. That's why you see that one of our interventions is to enroll cameras at vantage points on our roads. And so when you are caught in reckless driving, then you will be sent where you have to be sent and check whether you are drunk, and then appropriate measures or sanctions will be meted out to you.
I see. Dr. Thomas, about the point about policy, well, cameras may be part of the solution, but what more policy considerations can we do to tackle this? Because mind you, there's also a business opportunity or venture at stake. Any attempt to crack down on them may collapse the entire industry. So how do we balance that game?
Thank you. I think when they were counting of countries that consume alcohol, I think Russia was like one of the top countries consuming alcohol. But if you want to count road traffic accidents in Russia compared to countries that drink little alcohol, it will be caused by alcohol. You record in countries that consume less alcohol than Russia, is because their people respect regulations. You go for driver's license, they tell you that when you drink, don't drive. There's no need anybody to come and tell you again that when you are going to drive, don't drink. You've already learned it from the school before you got your license. Yes, there must be several regulations to help curb the excessive consumption of alcohol. One, production. How is alcohol produced or imported into the country? Can we regulate it? Can we regulate how much alcohol comes to the country? Can we regulate how much alcohol is produced in the country? Two, can we regulate how alcohol is being advertised in the media, the mass media, that will attract people not to drink alcohol? If we can regulate that, it will help. Can we regulate how alcohol is sold in shops and in bars? If we can regulate that, then it will work.
I guess the sale points also make sense, isn't it?
Yes, if at the sales point is not regulated, it can be regulated, one, by making the price so exorbitant that it's difficult for many people to buy. That is one thing. It could be regulated in a way that you can't buy more than this number of bottles in a day. But somebody buying to go home and drink, can you regulate that person? You can't regulate that person. That is where you need society, like churches, like mosques, like schools, like peers, to talk to those people to understand the side effects of alcohol. If people really understand the side effect alcohol has on their body, alcohol has on the society after consuming it, and on the economy, they are well educated, I think it will reduce the numbers. Like I said, some people drink it just because of peer pressure. But if education is well established in a way that many of these young people who are hooked to alcoholism understand the damage they are doing to their own bodies, I tell you, they'll stop drinking.
Okay, but scientifically speaking, the same percentage of alcohol you need as an individual.
Sure, that is why I am insisting on excessive consumption of alcohol. If you drink 20 mils of alcohol in a day in your body, it will cause you much problems. But there are people who go and sit and drink 6 bottles of a particular beer in a day. Some will take 1/4 of the hot juice in a day. Some will take a vodka in a day, and then the rest. That is dangerous to your life. It will cause a permanent damage after a long-term consumption. So alcohol consumption is not forbidden. Yes, you can drink alcohol to stimulate certain hormones in your body. It makes you a little bit sharp, but excessive alcohol consumption, as I said, can cause permanent damages to your brain, to your blood vessels, to your liver, to your pancreas, and then the rest, and even to your way of reacting. So, about the regulation is going to be very tough. The only thing that I think government can do is to make benefit of putting more taxes to make the price high, and also use part of those taxes to ring-fence it, like the young man said, the president said, create facilities whereby those who are alcohol abusers can go there for remedy. So if you want to go for counseling on alcoholism for withdrawal, at least there's money for a psychiatric doctor to come and treat you because you have taxed them already for that treatment. So I think we can bind the two things, but stopping it completely, stopping production, stopping the sales would also cause a problem because somebody just needs some small talk in a day to make himself happy, and you can't say you shouldn't do that.
I see. That's the challenge there. We need to go, but Pearl, let me also hear from you and also Dr. Anaba finally as we wrap up. Pearl, what's the way forward and what's the plea from the National Road Safety Authority? You never cease to appeal to the public, do you?
As doctor has rightly said, we need to regulate the sales and intake of alcohol, and also we need more gadgets to track down drivers who drink and drive. When there is enforcement and people are punished such, I think it will come down. As he rightly said, there is more intake of alcohol in Russia, but when you compare their road carnages, it is less than those of us who come lesser than them. And so I think regulation and enforcement is the way to go, because there's a saying that education without enforcement is entertainment. And so we need to put out more rigorous enforcement and regulatory measures. And I think that will do the trick for us.
Okay. Dr. Anaba, your final words on this?
My final word is that we should appeal to people, increase education, and then put more taxes on alcohol so that those who consume so much will not have too much money to consume so much. That is the two things I think we should do.
I see. Interesting. And I just hope that your bid to Parliament is going on smoothly, I guess.
Thank you very much. It is. And I'm for your prayers so that I can succeed and get to Parliament. Okay, then.
We'll leave it here for now. Dr. Thomas Anaba, CEO of the Havana Medical Center, also joining us, and he is also sharing his thoughts on that pressing issue that we've been looking at today. Pearl Addo is also spokesperson for the National Road Safety Authority. You're watching The Pulse, so we'll be right back. And thanks for staying with us here on the Pulse on the Joy News channel. Earlier, we were telling you about our top story focusing on the situation in the West African country of Niger, with the ECOWAS leader set to meet tomorrow. We've also been exploring the business angle with an economic impact on countries such as Ghana, which depend largely on onions being imported from Niger. It appears that there's an impact on the Ghanaian market. Here's why.
And so far, it seems the prices has increased slightly. And just as you can see behind me, the place is empty. So I have the chairman here of the Progressive Onions Association, and I want him to tell us more. All right, Sumaila, so how has the Niger border, the closure of the border, been affecting the onion selling here?
Yeah, good morning, viewers. Close of the border has affected us a lot, because we bought onions and we've loaded. We have over 75 cars standing on the border, and it has affected our business. Since you can see the market, it is empty, simply because of the coup. So it has affected us a lot.
Okay, and has there been any price increase? Because last week I was in the market and I realized that there was a slight increase, but how has it been today?
Yeah, the price has gone up small, because last week we were selling 1,200, 1,150, but now we are selling 1,400 and 1,450.
Okay, and do you have any goods on the way, onion to be precise?
Yeah, yesterday that they've talked to the ambassador and they've opened the border So some of the cars are on their way coming, but they didn't reach yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how much do you think you'd be losing in terms of costs? Because that was last week, and it's been there for long. Yeah. How much do you think you are going to lose as a result of this?
Really, but you know, onions, it's a rotten goose. So unless it comes, but we know by almost we will lose a lot because we know plenty will spoil. And since if it is spoiled, by almost we have to reduce it. We will not get the price that we bought there, and we have to reduce it and sell it. So we will lose a lot. Yeah.
All right. So let me go right to the the vice chairman of the Progressive Onion Sellers Association. Do you think the prices are likely to go up if this continues?
The price is already go up, and now we are selling it. The liter of the brand are selling it 1,500. And Benin border last 2 days they opened it small. And the onions come, and they have locked it again. And a lot of the cars go in Chuk at Burkina. So about 45 cars are blocked in Burkina about 5 days now. And they said they will do escort up to now. So our life is miserable. All our monies, if you come to the market, your life a graveyard. So it's not easy.
Okay. So personally, when I came here, it looks like the place is very empty. Why is that?
Because of the onion. We are exporting it to Ghana here. And there's no onion. If not, those cars come out. And onions, the moment they keep long in the car, there's heat. It will spoil. The moment the onions, tomatoes, we are the same. So they split to Burkina. All the cars go block at Burkina there, and we have nothing to do. They say they will escort there about 6 days now. They say they will escort there every day. The cars are there. The cars are, we are even don't know what to do. And the little they bring to the market, we are selling 1,001, 1,200. Now it's 1,005. And it's not even more. It's the local one that they harvest more that they even bring to the market. It's not even plenty. And all the ladies, they will guess one people will be fighting on it. So we are appealing to the government to see to Burkina so that they will open the border and escort the cars to Ghana here for us. If we go there, it's only Ghana cars. There's no car from anywhere. We are pleading to the government.
All right. Now, I'm coming back to you, Sumaila. He was talking about the local onions. Do you think that would be an alternative?
Yeah, the local onions, it is good because if government is to support us, we will do much here. That one too will be helping the country. For example, at Agogo side like this, we have plenty land there whereby we can farm the onions and we can produce more, but due to money circumstance. So if government can help us so that we too will doing our own.
Just as you heard from the sellers and the main leaders inside the Ajen Kotoku onion market right here, the closure of the Niger border is really affecting their business, and they are pleading with government to come to their aid. For Joy News, Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah.
And one thing that is critical to every political party is funding, and funding is a lifeline to all of these establishments. But this man I'm about to introduce to you, when he was running for the National Treasurer position of the NPP, promised to raise significant funds for the party. Today he's here on a membership drive and indicating that the party is set to enforce their laws and to meet their targets. Dr. Charles Jomina is the National Treasurer for the New Patriotic Party, joining us. It's a pleasure to meet you again, sir. I recall during the campaigning era, you were saying, okay, I'll meet the target. I'll raise so much money for the NPP. But the belief is that you're in power already. So for a governing party, why do you still need funds?
Well, thank you very much, and greetings to our cherished viewers. That, unfortunately, is the misconception out there. People believe that once you're in government, you don't need to raise funds as a party. So if we are to go by that assertion or that misconception, then we'll go without saying that if you're in government, you use state resources to run the party, which is not so. I mean, having been in office for a little over a year, I haven't seen any resource from government being brought to the party for us to run. Everything has been solely through donations, contributions from members. And so it's very, very important to really set it up in such a way that whether you're in government or in opposition, you still have reliable sources of funds to run the political...
Let's go back to the promise you made to your political party once more. The target was to raise how much?
Well, we've always said that a political party of this nature, with our members and our strength, I mean, we don't see the reason why we cannot mobilize $60 million annually.
That was your target?
Exactly. I mean,
what's the progress report now as we speak?
So when you're campaigning on the campaign trail, you are at liberty to say a lot of things on air.
Right.
When you're in the seat, especially handling finances, you are not at liberty to put out financial data out there. So whilst I can talk about certain things, I cannot really sit here and divulge party financial matters.
50%,
exactly.
40%. Where are we now? You still don't want to say that?
That becomes something that one has to go through the EC and all that, because we render accounts to the Electoral Commission per the Political Parties Act and so on and so forth. So generally, we're doing very well, and we want to even enhance it further. And the more reason why recently we rolled out new membership dues payment system. And working together with the General Secretary, the National Organizer, under the leadership of our Chairman, Honorable Stephen, and team, we are working to ensure that every member finds it very convenient to pay. Now, dues payment is put into 4 main categories. The bronze category, that's those who opt to pay 2 cedis to support the party every month. Then the silver, 5 cedis every month, gold, 8 cedis a month, and then platinum, 10 cedis a month. And the payment is very simple. You dial *920*270#.
Okay, so is this a new short code or an invention that you're putting in?
It is a new short code.
Right.
And the good thing about this is that it's been done solely by in-house technology and capacity. And previously we had some form of payment through short code MTN deductions and all that, but we're relying on third parties.
Okay.
So funds will go to the third party before they send to us. It had its own challenges, but currently everything is in-house. You dial the short code *920*270#. Then you follow the prompts, you pay your dues and all that. You don't need to really be a registered member to pay your dues because the system recognizes the numbers. So the payment is aligned to a number. So if today you are not a registered member but you want to support the party by paying a dues, you pay the money, it's resolved to your number. Tomorrow when you decide to register as a member, the number will be recognized that this number has paid dues on previous occasions.
Oh, that's unique. You have people of goodwill just donating to the NPP?
We do.
People do that?
Yes, and a lot of people, non-political people like yourself who are not for any particular political party, do support because it's in everyone's interest.
You take donations from everyone?
Yeah, we take.
Wow. Because the notion is, I'm asking that question because the notion is, well, that's a political party. Why do they need so much money? Why do we give them money?
Politics is about money. Because if my communicators will go out on set, they need fuel.
Yes.
If our organizers will go to the field, they need money. If you bring people together for activities, you need to give them transportation, feeding, and all. It's very much a money-consuming venture.
Yeah.
And money is really the oil of the wheels of politics, and you need it. That is why it's in the interest of every Ghanaian to ensure that we all look critically at how political parties are funded. In our case, we are clear. We've got nothing to hide. It's open secret. Everybody knows that we do mobilization for our members, and this is one of the innovative ways of enhancing that drive so we can have enough funds to run our party. So we will not be even tempted. We will not even dream of taking money from the state coffers and all that. If
that conversation has come up, and I don't know what your thoughts are on it, the possibility of having a state funding for our political parties. Is that something you would support?
I believe as a nation we should look at it because democracy is linked to our survival as a nation. And democracy, if you really want to have it done and done very well, then there should be some benchmark where democratic institutions are supported. Political parties are major stakeholders in our democratic dispensation. So if you leave it to them on their own, then of course people will find ways and means of funding it, and with it will come lots of strings. But if the state is investing in these political parties, then the state equally can call them to come and account. And be you a government in power, a party in power, and a party in opposition, you will have to now declare clearly what you got the funds.
The reason for some, and probably I'm a political student, so the reason for which some would say you're on this drive is because you have a major exercise ahead of you, which is the presidential primaries, the special delegates conference happening in a few weeks from now. Is that why you are carrying out this exercise?
No,
partly,
not at all. Not at all. I mean, our constitution is very, very clear. You read Article 321. It tells you that each member is obliged to pay membership dues in a manner and form prescribed by the party. And then when you go to 34B, it actually goes to describe who a member in good standing is. That a member in good standing is a member who has paid his or her dues in full. Up to date, or whatever levies or contributions the person would be required to pay. And so, I mean, if you're going into an election and you are a super delegate, for instance, you are a super delegate by virtue of the fact that you're a member in good standing.
So you're back to my point again.
If you are not in good standing, then of course you stand a risk of being disenfranchised.
Okay, there are a lot of people watching us, and I believe that some of them may form that delegates list that will be the special delegates to vote. So they're very concerned about this. Let's be clear about the constitutional provision of the NPP. If I don't get to pay my dues to date and August 26 comes, will you allow such people to vote?
That's what the Constitution says. I mean, the Constitution is very clear in black and white. You go to Article 3, 4B and you read. That's what it says. Of course, the interpretation and otherwise is left to the legal directorate, lawyer Gary Nimaku and co to do. But I mean, for us...
But if you attempt to explain it...
By our point is, you have to be in good standing. You should have paid your dues up to date. And if we are holding elections in August, and you are a delegate, then it goes without saying that you should have paid up.
Look, I'm sure the delegates will start running to your office right now because
they don't need to come to the
point is, and you've heard that refrain, this is cocoa season for them, so they'll come to your office and come and pay.
So the beauty is that we've made it very convenient. Last week, our national chairman Stephen Tim, launched this short code, and it's very convenient. You don't need to run to my office or to any party office. Just stay in your home
and pay.
And pay *920 *270 hash. You are at liberty to choose whether you pay 2 cedis a month or 5 cedis a month, 8 cedis a month, or 10 cedis a month. You do that, you pay, and you are in good standing. So you don't have any surprises being sprung on you come the D-Day.
You're running internal reorganization. Obviously, you're a politician, so we can't leave that out. How are you, first of all, positioning your office to be of help to that process? And what's your expectation also from the candidates themselves and aspirants who are going through this process?
Right. So everything in politics revolves around money, or largely, almost everything. And so these processes will need people going up and down, will need people putting things together. It's a bit of organization. My national organizer is not sleeping, he's working 24/7, supported by the wings. All these movements are facilitated by funds. And so our office is to ensure that we have the funds to make sure the wheels don't grind to a halt, that we're able to carry on the activities within good time and at good speed. And I believe so far the aspirants have also comported themselves very well, and we hope that they can even improve upon it, so that at the end of the day, I mean, this first round is to limit it to 5, then we'll go again in November to choose the main candidate. So if we tone down whatever it is that would bring antagonism, once we're done with it, reconciliation becomes easier, and we'll be able to present a united front. And that's what we are looking at, and we are supporting in every way possible.
Are you expecting the presidential candidates, or aspirants as they are now, to support the party in any way, in organizing? Because this is a very capital-intensive exercise you're about to go through. Looking at the mode by which you want to organize the elections, first of all, the fear is that there will be a lot more cost involved. After engaging, all the stakeholders, the aspirants, What financial burden or financial responsibility are you placing on them, for instance, in the organization?
Well, I at this point it will be a bit unfair to ask aspirants to now pay again for the organization, having paid filing fees and paid nomination fees to pick the forms and all that. And so the burden now rests on the party to mobilize the needed resources, and these things like the membership dues and all that are very essential in arriving at that. That is why it's very important that if you're a delegate, a super delegate listening, and you haven't paid your dues, in the interest of fairness, in the true spirit of the party, you need to immediately pick your phone, dial *920*270# and then pay your dues. I mean, you could do that as little as 2 Ghana cedis, whatever. Make sure you pay up to date and then support the party in any way possible. Because the super delegates, technically speaking, are super. The word super, they are elite delegates. Yeah. And so if elite delegates haven't paid their dues, then of course, how would you enforce dues payment among members? So we will just, as an individual, use this opportunity to appeal to our super delegates to make sure they have paid their dues. If they are in doubt or whether they've paid or not, they can get in touch, and then we'll gladly let them know their payment status and then facilitate payment for them.
Doc, has Dr. Bawumia paid yet?
Of course, you're going back to details, and I'm not quite to give details.
Or probably Alan or Kennedy Ejapong. You know, the list is there are about 10 of them going into the.
So it's not just the aspirants. I mean,
everyone must
the
pay.
People, the super delegates, the members, the regular delegates, anybody listening that has the interest of the party at heart must endeavor to pay the dues.
Doc, we'll have this conversation again as, of course, the days unfold, but we're grateful that you're joining us here on The Pulse today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that's all we have for you in this package of The Pulse. I'm blessed to log on to myjoyonline.com. More stories there for you. Next.